Hey, welcome back to All In with Rick Jordan. You know me, I'm Rick Jordan. I'm here with Nick Hyder. Dude.
Yes, sir.
What's up?
Man, everything's up. You're up. And I'm just so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, I'm pumped to have you on. We were just talking a little pre-show about your bio, and I don't know why I thought you moved from California. That's not the case. So I'm sorry if that was insulting in a little ways.
No.
But the same thing would be reversed, right? If I was talking to somebody from California and they moved from Nashville and then I insulted Nashville, that wouldn't be good either. No. Right on. Dude, I love every part of our country though when I talk about it, and it's the United States, right? And you're going to get me on a soapbox before it's where my brain goes, because we're all people. And I think that's really cool because I'm seeing we get very personal on the show too, man. And Wonderful. I'm seeing a lot of what you have here, and it's just such cool personal stories, and you can tell that it's really defined who you are now.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I think that's the coolest part about the evolution of becoming oneself is you go from hiding from your faults and your mistakes of the past to being almost proud of them.
Yeah,
you know
right
what
on.
I mean, and especially just like, and you start with like being a parent or in your marriage. That's the easiest place to start with, just because I guess maybe you've got a better audience. But
is it better sometimes? Sometimes maybe.
You're a family guy too,
yeah.
and beautiful family, by the way.
Thank you.
So I would say you have a great audience, and that's actually my wife's desk behind me. We actually share a space. So.
Oh, dude. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, I think one of my first 10 episodes, I had a dude on who he was really talking about how to make like the husband and wife work together thing actually function well. And that's something that my wife and I were never able to do, and it's also, like you said, embracing your failures and moving from them. That was a failure in my part. I don't know if in her part so much, but we just figured out a long time ago that just wasn't something for us because we just function so differently, but it also came with the different identities that we have too. And it's okay because we have collaborative identities, of course, in our family and what we're going after in life as a whole, but our paths sort of like run parallel and support each other. It's pretty cool. But yeah, coming together from a work perspective is something that would just never work for us. But it's okay. So I commend you, dude, that your wife's desk is right there behind you. You guys share the room. That's awesome.
We always have. We've been, I met her in the workplace back in the day, and we have literally worked together. That's how we became friends first and all that. And,
nice.
It's been an absolute blessing. Anytime I get to spend time with her, everybody loves her, man. She's just such a fun person to be around. And this is by choice. We have a nice big laid out office with other rooms and everything. But when we built this space out about a year ago, this back room where we're in right now, it had to have both her desks and mine.
That's awesome, man. Before we get into the nitty gritty of things too, because you're in Nashville, and I spent a few years ago, there was an IT mastermind group that I was a part of that was based in Franklin and really Nashville.
Okay. So right down the road.
You got it, man. Yep. So I mean, in the city there, downtown, of course, there's Broadway, which is always a fun time. But dude, you and I are two dudes that look like we like to stay pretty fit. It's something that drives us. One of my cruxes or vices, if you want to put it that way, every time I go to Nashville, I have to stop at Biscuit Love. Have you ever been to Biscuit Love?
Okay.
In the Gulch?
Yeah, and that's a great one. Highly recommend it. Basically anything in the Gulch is phenomenal. But yeah, good for you, man. Good for you. That's wonderful. Dude,
they've got the Hyde Park. I don't know if it's a Park something or whatever, but it's a burger that's on a biscuit instead of a bun, and then they put pimento cheese on it and like this habanero berry jam. It's just this insane piece of slop. It's a knife and forker burger that is just incredible to me, man. And that's I dive into those things. I like to talk about moderation too, a lot, because dude, if I ate that every day, I'd still be 280 pounds like I was 8 years ago. Not now though.
Wow. Yeah, it's cool, one, that none of that stuff that they put together makes sense, yet it's absolutely paradise.
Tastes so good.
Right? So I think you can put pimento cheese on just about anything, right? But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, man, to And I was always really fit, especially being a professional athlete. But after our child was born, the majority of my 30s was 20, 30 pounds heavier, and I was never comfortable. And to perform at the rate that I want to perform, the only way to do that is for the physical portion to be able to do that. You got to be able to last and maintain throughout the day. So that's been a huge piece, just like I'm sure it is for you. Yeah,
man. Let's dive into that real quick, because even like stupid stories like biscuit love, like I brought up, will lead into something meaningful, like we're starting to talk about right now. You were a professional basaball player in your 20s, yeah? Five seasons?
Yes, sir, I did.
That's awesome, man.
I was a above average high school player, but I actually grew like 3 inches in college. And when I got to college, I weighed like $165.
Yeah.
When I graduated, I was like 205. Right. So I was a late bloomer, late maturity. I'm still probably developing the maturity portion now, but I was fortunate enough. I have a nerve disorder that had put me down for some time. So immediately I was a health risk. So I did not get drafted, even though I had an amazing senior season.
Wow.
And but a scout from the Florida Marlins gave me a shot and got me lined up actually with independent minor league systems so that I could make a little bit more money, have a little bit more opportunity to do that. And I was able to play 5 years. I did quit on my own terms. You don't. The joke around here is that I made hundreds of dollars in my baseball career. But
that's funny. Yeah.
But it was an amazing experience. I got to play in front of tens of thousands of people on TV. I got to sign autographs and do all kinds of cool stuff, speak and all those things. But we had started a company here in Nashville that had kind of taken off and made no money versus was making what at the time was a lot of money. Sure. And it was just like, do I chase this dream and maybe make it, or do I let this die, or just make. I chose the business at the time, and I would give anything to play another game, but it was probably one of the best decisions that I ever made, to get that ball started.
I feel you, man. I was a semi-pro musician too, and of course music is big in Nashville, especially the Christian music aspect, right? And that's where I was in. That's the realm that I played in. I was an ordained pastor, and I was a worship leader always. I helped launch 3 churches in Chicago, and same thing, man. Awesome. I've played in front of thousands as a front man, with a guitar, right? The dude. And it's been 5 years since I've done that. And I look back, and it's the same thing. It's like, man, if I could have like one more night, right? Because that would be a lot of fun just because of that. But then I realized, because there's a lot of things that happen no matter what you're in. When it comes to politics and whatever industry or segment or profession that you're in, there's politics in baseball. There's politics in church, in worship, in every
big time there.
Oh my God, yes. I think every pastor really should be a politician, man, first, because it's the same skill set, brother. It really is.
Yeah.
So when I was that, and then things, of course, like they do sometimes in politics, they take turns for the worst. And then people started siding with me over the lead pastor because I was the number 2, and I never took a salary, man. They wanted to pay me 6 figures, but I'm like, you know what? I got my business. I'm good. I do this because this is my core. I want to impact people. So the music side of it, I'm with you on that. Just like you, baseball, saying like, I wish I could play another game. I wish I could play one more night, one more gig, one more show, right? Lead people in worship again, play my guitar. But then I realized like 8 months ago that what I do now, and maybe you can relate, I'm curious about this, because what I do now, and I was just telling my wife this the other day, because I hadn't yet, in 8 months when I realized this, I hadn't articulated this yet, and that I get the same fulfillment out of what I do now because it's still impacting and influencing lives and helping them get where they want to go. It's the same rise, man. At least that's what I realize. How do you feel about that?
The coolest part about the game, aside from there's nothing like having that, the feel of the crowd and the energy. Oh,
I bet,
and all that kind of stuff. But the coolest stuff for me is when they would actually, like, as a rookie, my first few seasons, I felt like I was a rookie every year. But the rookies usually go do like the speak at the school or do this at the local. In the minor league systems, you're usually playing in a small town or small city. Yeah. And so you may be going to speak at their big grocery store standing outside and talking to people, whatever. And that was like so for me, that was so cool. Coming back, and the college coaches and the high school coaches would ask me to come speak to everybody. That kind of was the segment into what we got, where we're at now. That was so 100% agree. It's definitely about helping people. Once you get right with yourself and you've developed a good relationship with yourself, then and you know how good it is. Yeah, you see everybody else they don't have that. You want them to have it. They have to have it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, for sure. I saw a quote. I'm sure you know who Mike Rowe is, right? From Dirty Jobs.
Yes,
back in the day. Yeah, he's a cool dude. And I saw a statement from him the other day. I think he was responding to a hater, which he's probably he probably has the best comebacks to haters on social media out of anybody that I've ever seen, man. Because look him up and look at some of the stuff that he's done. But first, his comments are so intellectual, and there's no way that you can argue with them. For a dude that was like in the tunnels, starting that out in like the sewers in San Francisco or whatever it was to start the Dirty Jobs series, to how he can just articulate things is mind blowing to me. But the dude actually started in sales, on QVC. He was an opera singer that went into sales and then went into filmmaking. So it's an interesting path. But his statement around what we're talking about now was something to the effect of, Dirty Jobs wasn't exactly his thing that he wanted to do, but he saw other people doing something like that sort of documentary film style or series style. And he's like, what? I saw what other people were doing. Then I got really good at it. I did it better. And then I learned to love it. Now I'm rich.
That's it.
Exactly. The part that really resonated with me was then I learned to love it. And when you're coming out of a thing, because for you, right, with baseball and me with music, when you're coming out of those things that were such a big part of your life for so long, and now it's like, oh man, what do I do with myself? Because it becomes part of your identity. At least it was for me, man. As I'm sure baseball was. Yeah, but then
that is it.
You get into something, you still find something, man, because there's other things that you can use your gifts and talents for. When you end something that you feel is so positive in your life, and you feel like you need to move on for that, because everything has a season. It's a nice pun for that, right? Nothing lasts forever. Everything changes. That's even scriptural, is that everything shifts, man. Yes. There's seasons for everything, and you move on from those things, but you don't dwell on those areas. And then what you're doing next may not be something you might have anticipated, but it's very possible that you learn to love it because there's tiebacks to everything that you did. I love your perspective on saying that you don't regret anything as far as you moving on from that. Of course you want another game. Dude, I want to play again, right? I want to play again, man. I love how our hearts are connected on this so much too, man. But you can learn to love it.
Yes, you definitely can. And obviously, my wife and I are big. We're very religious people. We're followers of Christ, and that was how we found the relationship with ourselves. It's through him, So, and that's kind of the way we structure all the things that we do. But it's. You made a huge point with the identity crisis. Until you get to a certain place and you're wearing the suits to the ballpark like you do in the big leagues, and like we saw the NFL guys doing it, which is freaking awesome. But when I first got out of ball, back then I wore what would be wind pants and T-shirts all the time, ball caps, right?
Yep.
And I remember looking in the mirror months after I had played my final game and I decided that part of me was over. And I looked in the mirror and I saw the same person that was there when I played. And that means everybody else is seeing me the exact same way. I had a major identity crisis where I had to reinvent myself. I didn't know who I was. I changed everything about me, about the way I looked and everything, so that because I'm a uniform guy. When I get dressed in the morning, it's game time. That's my uniform, but I had to change the uniform. We talked to a lot of our teammates and agents here about that is, everybody knows you to what you have been to this point. So if you want them to see you different, you have to give them an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And one of the things you can do is start with maybe the way you dress or the way you look.
Dude, that's a good perspective too, because we're at my cybersecurity company, right? We're a little lax. I mean, tech is known to be lax as far as dress codes go, right? You see Zuckerberg, I think, and Steve Jobs, back in the day too, man. I mean, he was always in jeans and a black turtleneck, but that was his uniform. That's what he wore every single day. And like Zuckerberg, he wore the jeans and he wore a black T-shirt every single day. Ever since he had to go to the Senate hearing, right, for the Cambridge Analytica stuff, that's when he changed his uniform a little. It's like, maybe I better wear a suit to this. But even with that.
I bet he wore a suit when he was asking for his first loans or all that kind of stuff. Right? And Jobs did too. They earned the right to do that. And that was the big thing for me is when we first opened our insurance agency, because out of all the stuff that we've done, the insurance agency is how we made our mark and was able to do so many other things. It's how we got on the map. But if I walked into a room full of 100 suits, I had to figure out how I was going to be the one that everybody remembered.
Yeah.
And if I didn't get a chance to talk to every single person, then what did I have left? And that was like, well, what could I put on my jacket or wear or do that was going to make there was all those suits, but there was that one guy that had the flower on his lapel or something like that, to make it stand out. I was just trying to separate myself from everybody else.
Dude, that's right on. There's seasons even with fashion changes too, right? So I'm coming out of a phase right now, because right now, I mean, you see me, I've got a T-shirt on, but it's a branded T-shirt. It's me, and when people see the symbol,
fire, by the way.
Thanks, my man. Thanks. That's how I still broadcast who I am in my core, because I was wearing a lot of Robert Graham stuff for a while too, and I like that because it's loud. And I always felt that after I dropped my 80 pounds, I moved into this phase like, shoot, now I'm thin and I'm fit and I feel amazing. I think when I walk into a room that people need to know who I am and how I feel inside just by looking at me. And that was a way that I could do that, man, was just being loud in my clothing. And I'd get compliments all the time on it. But now, I mean, what I do, when you're wearing loud stuff like that all the time, it doesn't look very good on camera. So again, it's coming back to seasons. And even like Zuckerberg, man, when you put this stuff on, I love this because it's your uniform. And the uniform, I think, can be different for everybody. Of course, dependent upon where you work or what you're into. But even like Zuckerberg, right, wearing a T-shirt every day. But when he had to go to the Senate hearings, the dude popped on a suit. Just like you're saying, when he went for his first loan, he popped on a suit. Your costume is nothing more than what you're saying right there, which is so powerful that it's game time. When you put it on, whatever it is, dude, wearing sweats or whatever, in the morning, and just this whole stay-at-home stuff that we've had going on, right, with the pandemic and all that, with everybody doing Zoom, it's like, business on top, party on the bottom, people not even putting on pants in front of I couldn't do that. I tried it once, right, and I've been on Zoom for years too, being in tech, right. I tried it one time, man, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, I mean, I even popped out a jacket over the T-shirt, I'm sitting there in like shorts, nobody can see it, but I could see it. Right. And that's something that killed my mindset just for that one single meeting, was not being completely prepared head to toe physically, which affected my mind. So what do you have a morning routine? I know I do, but do you have a morning routine prior to putting on your uniform? What do you do?
I do. So my son, he's 11. We actually I've been huge into in fitness, obviously, to be an athlete. But as I get older and closer to 40, which is this year, I cared more about just being overall healthy, being able to keep up with him. But I also wanted my clothes to fit a certain way. So I changed my stuff. So I started focusing on more body weight stuff. My son and I work out 5 days a week. Awesome. Before he goes to school, before he does everything in our living room. We got the stuff. That's how we stay grounded. We don't need the big fancy stuff. It's just us in our living room, and the element's great, with the best of Van Halen rocking out like crazy, Him and I have a smart coffee that I love to have with my lemon water. And then it's and that's kind of like my meditation period before I even really touch the phone or anything electronic. And then once we're done with that workout and I've had my 2 little cups of liquid goodness, it's time to rock and roll right then. And we're getting locked in and ready to go.
That's awesome, man. I love how you're talking about working out at home too, because it's something, same thing. All I work with are dumbbells and a rower. It's a Nordic track rower, but the Nordic, it's like the iFit, the top of the line one, because it gives the videos. Yep. It's like the Peloton of rowers, and that's something I just invested in this year back in March because I wanted to add cardio. But prior to that, dude, it was nothing but dumbbells, and you can get fancy, you can do whatever else, but it works. Because why does it work? Because just like you, dude, it's consistent. That's the big key. It almost doesn't matter what you do. Of course it does to an extent, but if you don't have the discipline and consistency, nothing's going to work for you, whether you go to a gym or whether you stay home. And now with all the gyms that closed this year, I'm saying, man, I'm glad I got into these disciplines 5 years ago because home works well for me because I can get up. It was like another barrier for me, man. I'm wondering if it is for you, is actually getting up, changing, going to the gym, then coming back home to try to keep going. It was just a barrier to me versus having a little breakfast before I work out and everything is right there under the same roof.
That's the best part is it is right there, and we're not having to get up and go or travel or there's all that is you're giving yourself a bunch of reasons why to get out of it. You're giving yourself a bunch of crutches to lean on when things might get tough. So I actually have I saw your setup on Instagram the other day. I have those. Those are the dumbbells. They're the best. That's what I got.
The
that's all I use.
ones. Yep, that's it. They have been out of stock since March too, man, because it was like there was a run on them, because I was going to even get some for the office or as gifts for some of my people because they were staying home and working too. That way, I'm big into nutrition and fitness. From a fit, I just want to be fit. That's it. I just want to have my body right so I know my mind will be right. And that's what I try to help my people with too, man. So some of my top people, I was going to get them those dumbbells and I couldn't find them anywhere. Then I was looking at for the Chinese knockoffs, and even those went out of stock. Yep. Nobody had them, man. It's like you had to jump on it. And maybe that's another good point too, because opportunities will always come, and like we're talking here is that I was prepared because I've already been doing this for years before something hit, before this crisis hit, before circumstances were changed. And even though this probably wasn't the same way in all areas of my life because everybody had to adapt with what happened this year, but in this area, which is something that set my tone for the rest of my day, every single day was my morning routine. That's something that did not have to change when all this stuff hit. With a lot of people it did, and I'm sure that's why we got increases in depression, man. I'm sure that's why we got increases in body weight, like the quarantine 15. It all ties together, man. And that's because people are trying to form new disciplines now in the middle of a crisis, and that's almost impossible to do. Even with cyber or whatever, even in what you do with insurance, it's difficult to try to help them rewind the clock in insurance, I'm sure, and say you should have had this coverage 2 months ago. Right? Yeah. Just like with what I do in cybersecurity, it's like you should have taken this protection 2 months ago before something happened. Because we're trying to set those disciplines and consistencies now. That way when something does, you don't skip a beat. Right.
It's almost like most people's lives are running them. They're not running their lives. You know what I mean? They're reacting to everything, and most of the time it's too late. There's two ways you make decisions, based on necessity and based on what you want. And you know what? The ones that you want, usually those are the easiest ones to stay consistent with.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
You know what I mean? So when you decide that I want the better relationship with food, I want the better, I mean, you literally can perform at amazingly high levels when you're just with what you consume food wise, and just getting that 30 to 60 minutes of just physical stuff a day. You just got to have it. You got to exercise those muscles, all of them.
It's crazy how little it takes too. Because I mean, when I got fit, it was only like 3 to 4 times a week. It wasn't even 5 times like I do now and like you do. It was only 3 to 4 times, and that was depending on the week because it was every other day. So one week it would be 3, the next week it would be 4, just because it was every other day. And it blew my mind as far as how little it actually took to get into shape. It was just literally the consistency and the discipline to freaking do it. And that was only, dude, you're saying 30 to 60 minutes at the beginning, man, because I was coming out of a bad surgery. I couldn't even do 10 push-ups, because I was so weak from what happened to me. But now my warm-up before I lift is 150 push-ups. You know, and
awesome.
that took like 2 years to build up to that point too, especially coming out of the weakened state. But if you can always jump off the bandwagon, man, and you can always say, you know, screw this, I'm never going to get there. The only way you're not going to get there is when you say, screw this, I'm not going to get there. If you just keep doing it, you're absolutely going to get there.
And you did it for the right reasons. You did it for you. Like, everybody is always looking for the quick fix. You know, what's the fastest way? It's almost like they wanted the cheat codes to get to a certain place. And it's different for everybody, you know. My wife and I found out that for us, like, we intermittent fast a lot, and that makes, if I eat anything during the day, I don't feel good. I don't perform as high as I do when I don't, you know. So, you know, I have 7 meals a week with a little bit, maybe some fun on the weekends or something. I love the donuts and the ice cream as much as anybody. Dude, but the day after you eat them, you feel bad.
For sure. Absolutely. Dude, I love the ice cream and the donuts too. You just hit like my top twos.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel a little better. This is chasing a bit of a squirrel, but I feel a little better when I go to Whole Foods and I get the oat milk ice cream, because it's non-dairy and it's made from oat milk, and it's, oh dude, you should try it. So I don't know if you've had it, but it's made by So Delicious. It's oatmeal cookie. It's got little chunks of oatmeal cookies in it, and there's also a salted caramel one too, a salted caramel chip that is, it's got the caramel swirls in there. Good God. Anyways, that's what I do. So, or I'll stop and get a donut every now and then too, which is typically like once a month. Dude, I was in Minneapolis. Now I'm really like chasing squirrels. I was in Minneapolis. I had the best donut I've ever had in my life in Minneapolis. It was called Cardigan Donuts. I even brought a dozen home. They were so good. Walked them through the airport, through security, man. And I was like, I hope these guys don't like confiscate this stuff, because I don't know. I never bring food through except little protein bars or something. I've got a whole freaking box of donuts that I stuffed inside my carry-on. You know, and all I could think of, I'm like, these TSA agents, man, they better not steal my donuts. These things were so good. I mean, this was like gold that I got sitting in here. You know, I'll fight you for it. For real.
Yes. Absolutely.
Public figure Rick Jordan gets thrown into prison because he fought a TSA agent today over donuts. Oh my God. Oh Lord.